How's it going, YouTube? This is the Heroes Advisor. I've been thinking a lot about the second Avengers film, Age of Ultron. I love the first Avengers, and then you had Age of Ultron, of course. Then the third one was Avengers Infinity War, and then Endgame. So the first, third, and the fourth Avengers movies are all really awesome. But what about the second one? I think a lot of people just write it off as, yeah, it was a pretty good superhero movie, but I'd like to delve a little further into what makes that movie not work as well as the others, in my opinion. So basically what I'm going to be doing in this video is just listing off some of the things I think that really don't work, and maybe some of the things that were similar to the other Avengers movies that didn't work in those as well. I think that Age of Ultron piles together a lot of really good elements and a lot of not so good elements. A lot of things that don't really work, that don't really add anything to the story. But it's also not a horrible movie because it gives us a lot of cool characters like Wanda and Quicksilver, Vision, obviously. And Ultron as a villain is a really, really great bad guy. He's awesome. In the comics, he was intimidating, he was damn near indestructible. In this movie, I think they don't really give him enough of that. So once I get to the end of all my points, I'm going to be talking about how I would rewrite Ultron as a villain. So I'm going to start with the big one. I don't really like the robots at the end because they feel really kind of forced and kind of hollow. How Ultron has been creating this army. I think that's kind of cool. In the end, we've got our heroes just fighting all these faceless robots. What does it really add to the fight? These robots are just, they don't make any sounds. They don't have any unique movements. They're just faceless robots that Ultron has created an army out of. And for our heroes to battle and destroy, make sure they don't harm civilians. And I don't think they're really unique in any way. They just kind of come out of the ground and, you just kind of break them apart. There's really nothing special about these robots. And I think that could have been done better, maybe by adding, putting Ultron in control of maybe other villains, or maybe giving him a unique ability, one that's used in the movie, that he can be in multiple places at once, and maybe make every robot Ultron and make him thousands of him just appear everywhere, and he's always talking, he's taunting the Avengers, and maybe he can do that instead of have these generic robots coming out of the ground and just doing, generic lasers and stuff like that. All of it felt very hollow, and I think it could have been a bigger moment or a bigger third act than it was in the original film. Let's talk about Ultron's unique ability to be in more than one place at a time. I think it's kind of assumed that he can do this. They kind of say, hey, he escaped through the internet. And to a normal viewer, they say, okay, how did he do that? Did his consciousness escape the body that he was in and run off to another body so he can carry out his plans from there and survive and continue to survive? Or how does it work? It's just like, oh, he escaped through the internet. Okay, what does that really mean? And how does that work exactly? I think it's just all really to say, hey, yeah, he can escape through the internet now. It's like, hold up, okay. How can he do this? What does it mean for our heroes? And what kind of impact does it have on Tony, being that he created something that's so powerful, and that's what it was in the comics, that Hank Pym created this character and this villain, this thing that's afraid of what it is, it doesn't know what it is, and determines that humanity is bad and decides to kill them all. But I think Ultron in this movie could be given a lot more depth, and I wish he was fleshed out a little bit more. And I think this ability and this assumption that everyone will understand what it means for him to be in multiple places at once, I think it wasn't used as much, and I think it wasn't explained too well. Like I said, in the robot fight at the very end, I think every one of those robots should have had his consciousness inside of them, and he could always be taunting the characters. I think that would kind of have a bit more of a unique feel in the third act, rather than think about the first Avengers, where Loki is controlling the Chitauri race, is Thanos' basically army for hire. And you couldn't do that with the aliens because they all have free will. They're all these different beings. But in these robots, you could have each one of them be Ultron and not look like him, but just be the generic robot. You could keep the generic robot. It wouldn't be that good, but you could keep that same design, and you could have Ultron be in every one of these robots. That would be really unique. You can't really do that with any other army for hire like aliens, but these robots really give it that unique ability, and I think it went pretty underutilized. It should have been explained a little better why Ultron can just zip in and out of all these different mechanical bodies. I've had to watch this movie a couple times to really fully understand everything that's going on and why the characters go to different places to do different things. Let's talk about that pacing. So the pacing basically comes to a screeching halt after the Hulkbuster fight in whatever city that was. Tony in the Hulkbuster suit fighting a corrupted Hulk, because Wanda is messing with Bruce Banner's mind, turns himself into the Hulk and then wreaks havoc on this one city. So once the Hulk is subdued and Tony eventually kind of wins that fight and brings Banner back to his normal self, all the characters, the whole Avengers team, they go to Clint Barton's, Hawkeye's family farm to kind of lay low because the world is pretty upset at the Avengers or at the Hulk rather, for destroying this one city because he was under mind control basically. He was just all agitated and he wasn't the Hulk like we know the Hulk. The Avengers have to lay low and you get about a half hour straight just characters talking, and then Hawkeye and his wife talking, and then this romance between Natasha Romanoff and Bruce Banner. At the end of the movie, Hulk flies to Sakaar for Thor Ragnarok, basically, and that romance pretty much goes nowhere. You've got Hawkeye talking to his wife about having more kids and stuff like that. It does give Hawkeye a bit of a human element to the entire team. He's got Black Widow there with him, but he is the guy. He is a guy on a team with gods and super soldiers and geniuses, so that scene does solidify him as, you're like, oh yeah, he really is just a guy who can shoot arrows really well. Yeah, that pacing really just slows down. I like to skip that good half hour of the movie once I get to that point. It feels like it went for too long. You can have a scene like that, but it just feels like it went for much too long. And it's an action movie. It's a summer blockbuster, so you can have slower scenes like that, but a half hour is just a bit too much. Another problem I have is Ultron's vision plan, to get this ultimate vibranium-made body, basically being the Vision. Once that plan fails and the Avengers recover the body and they put Jarvis's consciousness into the body, making it Vision, that was supposed to be Ultron in the body. That body was supposed to be Ultron's perfect form, and he would destroy the Avengers with that body. Instead, the synthetic body was infused with Jarvis, and then Ultron just kind of moves on. He's like, okay, crap, well, that didn't really work out too well. So I'm just going to have this army of robots, and I'm going to pick up this piece of a city, and I'm just going to drop it into the earth and kill all of humanity. And that he just kind of like pulls all that out of nowhere, and after his vision plan totally fails. I'm not sure how I would even fix that. I mean, I guess I would have Ultron not even be interested in making a Vision body, but then the body in the cradle would never have been made. So I don't really know how I would fix that with my no screenwriting experience. So super quick, how would I fix Ultron as a villain? Another YouTuber I watch, Nando V Movies, check him out, he makes great stuff. He thinks Ultron should not be allowed to kill and have other people do it for him. Yeah, that's basically it. That's what I would do. Ultron should not be able to kill, because then it creates a lot of different scenarios where it's not just, oh, evil robot decides he's evil and decides that humanity is bad and goes and kills people. He becomes a lot more intimidating, I feel, if he can't kill, because then you wonder how he's going to do it. While his design is very good, and James Spader voices his character with such an intimidating and very calm approach, all of that is done very well. I like, personally, when Ultron bends way over to Ulysses Claw. He bends over, he says, "There is no man in charge." And I like all of that, but I think making this typical robot that gains sentience and decides all humans are bad and must be wiped out, I think if he couldn't kill and had other people do it for him like he does in the comics, I think that would be a much better take on the character. And it would make this kind of okay Marvel villain a lot more interesting if he just couldn't walk up and, oh, I'm just going to kill you or laser you. So those are my quick thoughts on how I would change Avengers Age of Ultron, mostly, some of the problems I have with it and the villain, who I thought had a lot of potential, and I almost wish I could just go back and adjust the movie to how I think it should be done. And there's a lot of different ways you could go about it, but those are just some of my thoughts. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.